Hello everyone, my name's Dane McCormack. I'm 47 years old. Had the most amazing childhood down in Tasmania. But I escaped to the mainland to pursue my career. That led me to work for several of the world's biggest companies. Unfortunately, I was diagnosed with cancer back in 2018. I then spent 12 months in hospital. I was given 24 hours sleep several times. Lost the toes off my right foot. 20 centimetres of my memory, long and short-term memories, my sense of smell, my sense of taste, but not my sense of humour. Phew! Because laughter really is the best medicine. Also lost my father, Dane McCormack, who contracted and died of cancer down in Tasmania while I was battling cancer in hospital in Canberra. Because of my memories, I don't have a single memory of that time. Don't remember his diagnosis or his quick decline. And get to say goodbye or attend his funeral. My family, bless them, kept his ashes. We spread them when I went down, allowing me to say my final goodbye. Thank you, family. Here I am with my dad's memorial gate that my brother built for him and installed at his shack at the Great Lake in the Central Highlands of Tasmania, where my father spent much of his early career building the infrastructure for the Hydroelectric Commission that enabled Tasmania to be 100% powered by renewable energy. Also created the world's best trout fishing destination, where it took us up every second weekend during the season and catch lots of big trout. I love you, Dad. During my cancer journey, the mighty poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley was profoundly inspirational. Out of the night that covers me, black as pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I've not winced, cried aloud. The bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloodied. But unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet the menace of the years finds, and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments a scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Contracting cancer was absolutely a bludgeoning of chance. But we are all bludgeoned by chance throughout our careers and lives. Luckily, I had the most amazing parents who taught me to be master of my fate, to be captain of my soul. So when I was bludgeoned by chance, I didn't wince or cry loud. I was master of my fate, and I focused on developing strategies to continue living a happy life. The lessons we learn early in life guide us to our destiny. And this one has led me to some amazing places. And will lead me to many more. Thank you, Mum. Thank you, Dad. My father, later in his career, was a Boilermaker welder for the largest onion export in the Southern Hemisphere. An amazing little company down in Tasmania called Vicon. He would tour the world taking photographs of the latest in onion harvesting and processing equipment, then come home and build it in his workshop, without engineers or drawings or calculations. He had a vision of what he wanted to build. Then he just figured out how to do it using chalk sketches on the workshop floor. He once took a tractor, turned it into a self-propelled onion harvester, with just chalk sketches on the floor. It was so inspirational. He told me that when you hit a problem, you don't wince or cry loud. Just sit down, you fix it. Doesn't matter how long it takes, even if it's with chalk sketches on the floor. I've since created my career in life with chalk sketches on the floor. I've had a vision of what I wanted to do, but no specific goals. Just figured it out as I went, with chalk sketches on the floor. My mother, Janice McCormack, nee McGee, was a nurse. She taught me to trust my gut, to know my instincts and desires and wants and needs so well that the answer is immediately obvious. I don't need to overthink it. She also let me lead the way. She let me learn how to sail in Bass Strait, one of the roughest waterways in the world, when I couldn't swim. I had so much fun jumping off the big waves in Bass Strait, even when they knocked me out of the boat. This taught me at a young age to not be scared, but be prepared. Make sure I was wearing a life vest, that a safety boat was close by, that I learned to sail in the river before heading out into Bass Strait. She also encouraged me to try new things, sometimes insisting, One day in primary school, she sat me down in the playground and said in no uncertain terms, "Your brother's playing field hockey. You're playing too." I really did not want to play, but there was no arguing with that. So I was begrudgingly I did. Didn't stop for the next 30 years. Had such a good time. Made so many good friends. Because of her insistence, she forced me to enjoy years of bliss and happiness. This taught me at a young age to not be scared of jumping into the unknown. You don't know what you're going to enjoy. Do give it a go. Doesn't matter which road you go down. Who knows what cool shit you'll see on the way. Great example of being master of my fate and captain of my soul was my first job in hospitality while I was in high school as a waiter in the local pub's restaurant. On my very first night working, they were expecting a slow evening, so I was the only waiter, and I also had to wash the dishes because chefs were there to cook. They've then had the busiest night they've ever had. It's about 40 tables, and every seat was taken as soon as we opened. But I didn't win to cry loud. I was master of my fate, and I slowly conquered that tough night. I also respected that my boss, the wonderful Robbie Devlin here, would never put me in that position ever again. And he never did. And I had many enjoyable nights working there. My head was bloodied, but I'm about. I started my career studying civil engineering at a TAFE college on the northwest coast of Tasmania, the wonderful little town of Burnie. But as I worked my way through my first year, my gut told me it wasn't my thing. Also found this amazing company called Elphingston, who were also based in Burnie. And they took above-ground construction equipment like trucks and loaders and modified them to work underground in the mines. They even started manufacturing their own equipment. It was so cool to find such an innovative company in regional Tasmania. I really wanted to work there. But I wasn't going to do that with civil engineering. What happens next? Oh, it's a key attribute of chalk sketches on the floor. That's the later design evolved over time. I had to modify my career chalk sketch to give me qualifications and experience to work at a great company like Elphingston. So I was master of my fate, and I sketched out a plan. My sketches that led me to the most amazing new job that I still look back on as one of the best I've ever had. It was down in Hobart, where the government-owned training centre that was run as a business called the Centre for Precision Technology. So the name alone was enough to get me excited. It was a 5-year program with about a dozen trainees per year, and we worked on the factory floor getting a trade certificate in precision manufacture while manufacturing parts for customers, and also studying at university for a Bachelor of Technology in Manufacturing Engineering. Gave us practical experience in the discipline we'd soon be designing and managing. It was such a great program, and I had so much fun building cool shit out of metal on a variety of computer-controlled lathes, mills, sheet metal. Amazing. We were making parts in a nanometer. So difficult to get there, but so satisfying when you did. I then got bludgeoned by chance in my 3rd year when the government shut the centre down. But I didn't wince or cry loud. I respected that the Tasmanian government was funding the centre to benefit the Tasmanian manufacturing industry. And most of the graduates escaped to the mainland, as I did too. We weren't delivering the outcome the government needed. So I got the chalk out, searched desperately for a job in Tasmania. I never would have left if I could have found one. I examined every single manufacturing company down there, which didn't take long because there's not many. Couldn't find a single job to apply for. But I didn't wince or cry loud. Time to modify my career chalk sketch once again. Rub it out and create a beautiful new one. Luckily, I'd become really good friends with another trainee at the centre, whose parents had moved to Brisbane, where he found this amazing Bachelor of Manufacturing Engineering, which was much better than the Bachelor of Technology we were studying down in Hobart. Even better was a dual degree with marketing as a second major. So I was master of my fate. I escaped to the mainland to study full-time so I could do really well and had an awesome new job. My new chalk sketch was filled with beaches and palm trees, warm weather, fun parks, good friends and a bright new future. Here's my mate Patrick Wright, who guided me through this wonderful valley in life. He and his parents made you feel so welcome up in Brisbane. They gave me a bed to sleep in, looked for long-term accommodation. They made it so much easier. to move up the other end of the country. I also played hockey for the Southwest United Hockey Club, who embraced me like family, provided me with so much support mentally, spiritually, physically. Amazing. Thank you, Mum, for forcing me to play hockey so many years ago. Led me to an amazing place. I gained honours in both those university degrees, thanks to all that incredible support that I had, and it would lead me to work for several of the world's biggest companies. My head was bloodied, but unbowed. Straight after university, I got the most amazing job as a production engineer for Corvette Queensland. We imported Chevrolet Corvettes and trucks and converted them to a right-hand drive so they could be driven in Australia. They were located in the regional Queensland town of Gympie, which is about 2 hours north of Brisbane. I'd grown up in a regional town, so that didn't worry me. And I found Gympie to be a nice town. I mean, feed your pie when you go to the gym, get it? Gym pie? Here's my co-engineer, Joseph Butterworth. He warmly welcomed me to Gympie. We soon became fast friends and we got shit done. Thank you, Joe. I also discovered Rainbow Beach on the coast near Gympie. I'd never even heard of Rainbow Beach before I moved to Gympie. It's called that because of the rainbow-coloured sands. There was even the Cherry Avenger, a massive freighter that had been grounded there for decades, slowly rusting away. Doesn't matter which road you go down, who knows what cool shit you'll see on the way. But it was my first office job out of university, and my gut told me I needed more learning and growth opportunities. So I trusted my gut and I sketched out a plan. The plan was a sketch. The job was a masterpiece, worthy of any museum, with multinational defence and aerospace giant Boeing. I was the first lean manufacturing specialist they had employed in Australia. So I got the pleasure of learning all about how they do it in their factory in Seattle, Washington. In the world's biggest shed, they have separate production lines for each of their plane models. The most amazing part is they've implemented a moving line. The plane constantly moves while it's being built. They have tools and parts placed at strategic locations, so when the plane gets there, everything the workers needs as they're ready to go. Also got to work in it. I was part of a lean workshop on the 777 to improve installation of the rear auxiliary power unit. Also got to drive a left-hand drive car on the right side of the road. So much fun. I then came home and delivered training courses and facilitated lean workshops at all the Boeing sites around Australia, where we looked after the mighty F-111 fighter jet, the C-17 cargo plane, and so much more. Such a cool job. But even though I couldn't see the learning and growth opportunities at Corvette Queensland, it was the quality assurance experience I gained when I implemented the International Quality Accreditation ISO 9001 for them. It landed me the job with Boeing. Wouldn't have got it without it. And I wouldn't have had the opportunity to implement ISO 9001 so early in my career at a large company. Doesn't matter which road you go down, who knows what cool shit you'll see on the way. Trust me, driving Corvettes was cool. So in the same vein, even though that lean job was so cool, I was then master of my fate by keeping an eye out for other job opportunities within Boeing Australia. My next job was as quality manager of the integrated logistics support capability. I wouldn't call it an interesting job, but I really wanted to work there because there was such a good manager in charge. Here he is, little Jack White. I really wanted to work for him, and I'm so glad I did. It was a valuable new capability to add to my career, and it set off a chain of events that landed me my dream job. Because not long after I jumped in, one of the customers on a $500 million program started jumping up and down that we weren't implementing reliability engineering properly in this program. We didn't have a reliability engineer at the time, or previously. I'd never even heard of reliability engineering. But I asked around and it was fascinating. Highly complex statistical mathematics, and I love maths. I should have been a mathematician. So I threw myself in the deep end. I taught myself all about reliability engineering. I delved deeply into the program. I gathered evidence that we were implementing. I presented that back to the customer and everyone was happy. Doesn't matter which road you go down, who knows what cool shit you'll see on the way. Well, that road sure did help me find some cool shit. Because I'd done so well at that job, I got the opportunity of a lifetime. Boeing Australia created an advanced systems team and I was one of the first members. And we were asked to look widely across the global Boeing company to identify products and services we delivered elsewhere that could be applied to the Australian market, and then develop business strategies to bring them here. I had so much fun delving into all sorts of different capabilities. Unmanned air vehicles, command and control systems, satellites, you name it. The coolest project I was part of was the Square Kilometre Array radio telescope. It's being built by a consortium of 11 countries, and they're building thousands of radio astronomy antennas and spreading them over thousands of kilometres to simulate a single giant radio telescope to answer fundamental questions about the origin and evolution of the universe. I was the Boeing representative of the Australian Square Kilometre Array Industry Consortium, which was a whole bunch of different companies from a whole bunch of different industries brought together to try and identify opportunities for Australian industry content when they built the telescope. They were still in the planning stages of selecting either Western Australia or South Africa to host a telescope. These locations were of interest because of the wide tracts of uninhabited land, free of radio broadcasts, mobile telephone, wireless internet, and everything else that interferes with the signal they get from space. So we also helped lobby for the telescope to be hosted by Western Australia, because that would mean more opportunity for Australian industry content. And I'm really happy to tell you that it's co-hosted by both Western Australia and South Africa. Everyone's a winner. It was so cool to be part of such a huge, complex scientific project. Another cool project was in solar power. I found a Boeing subsidiary company called Spectralab, who had the most efficient, concentrated photovoltaic solar power cell in the world. It was used to power satellites in orbit, but they developed this really innovative ground-based system. Concentrated photovoltaics, different to rooftop solar. The sun needs to be pointed directly into the cell at all times for it to work. So they generally put it in big reflective satellite dishes and track the sun across the sky. But the system they developed was a series of small modules, about a metre by half, and they vacuum formed a parabola, which they chrome plated, such that as the sun went overhead, it bounced the rays directly into the cell. Didn't need to track the sun. It was much cheaper and more efficient. They were having trouble convincing their leadership to start the business in the US, but advanced systems were set up for exactly this type of opportunity. It's a different leadership group, so there was a much better chance of getting it up and running. So I worked with them to develop a business strategy to launch Boeing's ground-based solar power business in Australia with Square Kilometre Array as the launch customer, because it was located in the most remote part of the world possible, and the sound made by diesel-powered generators also interfered with the signal they get from space. So it was the perfect solution. The power companies were part of the Australian Square Kilometre Array Industry Consortium, so I worked with them to identify all the other exciting opportunities we could pursue. They were on board, they could see it. It was such a great business strategy and model. Everyone loved it. So I started searching for a manufacturing facility where we could build solar power plants in Australia and export them to the world. I think I bludgeoned by chance. The Boeing Australia company went through some financial difficulties, and they needed to restructure to cut overhead costs. And advanced systems was an overhead. So boom, we were gone. But they loved the work I was doing and how I was doing it. So they've come to me and they're like, we really want you to continue doing this work, but we need to find you a new job position. That job position was in Canberra. Doubt you'd find too many people longing to move to Canberra, especially after the amazing life I'd established up in Brisbane. But I had a couple of business trips there. It was a nice little city. I really liked the new manager I'll be working for. Here he is, the wonderful Rod Drury. So I was master at my fate. I made the big move. I'm so glad I did. I got so lucky Boeing moving me to Canberra. It is such a wonderful city. Highly underrated by everyone. Never would have moved here otherwise. It was all expenses paid. They even put me up at the Realm Hotel for a month while I looked for long-term accommodation. Walked into the office on my first day, which is just down the road from where I currently work in Blackall Street, Barton. They got their name on a building, but only use half a floor. Even that's half empty. No project work done there. Just government relations stuff. Anyway, I got talking to one of my colleagues, and she mentioned that she was moving out of a unit soon, and that I should come and check it out. It was a one-bedroom unit, literally down the street, in the big unit block overlooking Lake Burley Griffin. Could walk to work, didn't have to worry about parking. How good is that? Take it. I then had such a good time exploring Canberra and all the lights. War Memorial, Portrait Gallery, Library, Museum, amazing. I then got bludgeoned by chance again, even though everyone loved my solar power business strategy. Even though I was on the cusp of launching Boeing's ground-based solar power business in Australia. Got up in the senior leadership and they decided they didn't want to be in solar power. With a stroke, the panic was gone. They sold it off. I winced a little bit here, but I didn't cry out. You see, the Boeing brand name is all about the airplane. And they didn't want anything which could interfere with that brand, so they made up all sorts of excuses about how we're going to put these things in the middle of the desert that melt and blah, blah, blah. Oh well, don't be angry at great experiences, eh? Be grateful it occurred. I'd had my fun. I then got bludgeoned by chance again. The Boeing Australia restructure kept rolling. And less than 12 months after moving me to Canberra, they suddenly come to me and they're like, look, we'll move you back to Brisbane, all expenses paid, and find you a new job. Or you can take a redundancy. Frankly asking them, following me around, so I took the redundancy and I ran. Actually, I rode. I bought a book of the best motorcycle rides in Australia. And I decided I'd ride as many as them as I could while I looked for a new job. Because it doesn't matter which road I go down, who knows what cool shit you'll see on the way. So I moved out of my unit. And here's my beautiful Buell XB9R, loaded up with camping gear and a computer and a suit and a tie, ready to fly. So I could continue applying for jobs and attending interviews while I went. My plan was to ride up to Brisbane while riding the best motorcycle rides, to catch up with all my Brizzy mates. Then back down the coast to do the Mecca River rides, the Great Ocean Road. Had aunt and uncle and cousins who lived at the end of that, so it'd be good to catch up with them. I did get the passenger ferry over to Tasmania. Didn't need my book of best motorcycle rides in Tasmania. Driven them all previously. The thought of doing it on a motorbike excited me no end. So I took off and I had such a good time exploring parts of Australia I'd never been to before. And the best motorcycle rides are in the most spectacular locations. The best motorcycle rides are roads with lots of corners packed tightly together. Roads follow the landscape, so there's lots of corners packed tightly together, so through mountains and valleys, forests. Amazing. Got up to Brisbane, had such a good time with my mates up there. I flew back to Canberra for an interview that landed me a job with KPMG in management consulting. Never even thought about a job in management consulting before I'd applied for a job in there. But it doesn't matter which road you go down, who knows what cool shit you'll see on the way. So I climbed aboard. Not before I climbed aboard the Buell and raced back to Canberra to prepare. No time to ride the best road, straight down the highway to Canberra. Anyway, I walked into the KPMG office on my first day and met my future wife, Amanda Beasley, in the induction program. It started at the same time. Before I met her, I'd never even been in a long-term relationship. I was hopeless at romantic relationships. She stormed through my loneliness and rescued me from a life of solitude. We've now been married for 10 years with the most amazing little 9-year-old boy, Moby McCormack. Doesn't matter which road you go down, who knows what cool shit you'll see on the way. Which brings me to my cancer story. I'm not sure I was bludgeoned by chance, like beaten half to death. It was because of all the side effects from the cancer treatment. It honestly made me consider that the treatment was worse than the disease. I winced quite a bit here, but I didn't cry out. I respected that the cancer treatment had saved my life, and the side effects were just an outcome of that life-saving treatment. This allowed me to be master of my fate, to be captain of my soul, and not get angry at the medical staff for causing the side effects, but work with them to develop strategies to continue living a happy life, even with the side effects. And I'm really happy today that I have resumed a happy life, thanks to the amazing services they provided me. Here's my wonderful oncologist, Dr. Phil Choi, and my counsellor, Deborah Perry. Thank you for helping me survive and thrive. But by far the worst side effect from the cancer treatment is the acquired brain injury that occurred when bacteria from a surgical wound infiltrated my brain, basically killing a big chunk of it, which mainly affected memory. Luckily, the analytical part of my brain's largely intact. I don't remember contracting cancer, being diagnosed, chemotherapy, or stem cell transplant. I don't remember my first admission to hospital where they cut off my toes and removed my bowel. I don't remember being released. Any time I spent at home. Going to accident and emergency does the time because everything was acting up. My first memory of my entire cancer journey is walking into the hospital for my second admission, looking down and asking the nurse and my wife what had happened to my toes. My brain has to find new neural pathways around the damage. I've got an allergy to road network and there's an accident or roadworks. You can't get through. You need to find a way around. It's going to be longer. You'll probably get lost, but every now and then you find a shortcut, which is so cool. I then started thinking about returning to work as business development and strategy manager for Lockheed Martin Space Systems Company with the most amazing boss who supported me so well during my cancer journey. It was very clear he wanted me back. He welcomed me with open arms. He did everything he could to get me back up to speed. The Australian Space Agency had been established while I was in hospital, and they'd invested significant funds to aid industry development. And that got me so excited to get back to work and help grow the next exciting industry for Australia. But of course, a key ingredient to returning to work is knowing where it is. I honestly couldn't remember where the office was. Couldn't believe it. I had to ring the boss and ask him. And once I got in, I had to get a tour of the building. How embarrassing. But then I was talking to the boss one day, and he mentioned that the new office building was really nice. The new office building had moved. Phew, I didn't have to look like an idiot. No, apparently I did. Spent a week there before I went on long-term leave. You think I remember? No. What was even better is where they'd moved. They're on the very same block as the Boeing building I'd first worked when I moved to Canberra. They're right next door to the building I lived in. I was also working for the same person at Lockheed Martin that I had been back at Boeing. Talk about coincidences. I was back in the hood again. Unfortunately, the acquired brain injury causes severe mental fatigue and also makes me highly sensitive to noise. Just sitting in the office for one day knocks me out, and it's not even very noisy. All of that unfortunately resulted in me being unable to return to full-time working duties. It also affects my ability to do the wide thinking needed to develop business strategies. I can still do it, but I'm nowhere near as good as I used to be. All of that sadly resulted in my boss asking me to resign. But I didn't wince or cry loud. I respected that I couldn't work full-time, and I wasn't sure when I'd get back up to speed, or even if I could still only do 12 hours a week. I had the humility to know that I was no longer as good at developing business strategies. My boss needed more help than I was able to give. And I was also very grateful for everything he'd done for me. He'd made it so easy to move to Canberra. He taught me so much. He supported me so well. I honestly couldn't have picked a better person to transition me back into the workforce because of how well he knew me. I respected that it was the company, so they both forced him to offer me the redundancy at Boeing and to ask me to resign at Lockheed Martin. So I'm master of my fate. I'm captain on my soul. We're still good mates. We still catch up for a coffee. And I respected his request, and I flew away. I don't wing it up, prayer. I wasn't even sure what type of job I could do anymore. But I didn't mince or cry. It's time to get the chalk out and start drawing and dreaming. To find a new job, better suited to my current cognitive ability, while allowing me to get back up to speed. So I reached back into my experience to find a job that I knew really well, that I didn't need the wide thinking skills I was currently lacking. Jobs like quality assurance and delivering training courses. My chalk sketches that led me to the most amazing new job with the new boss just as good as the last one. Here he is, one for Andrew Cleary. They're an amazing Australian-owned software development company specialising in data analysis and visualisation. After working with so many multinational companies, it is so cool to be working for an innovative Australian company. They have been working in an area perfectly suited to my current cognitive ability, quality assurance. That Corvette Queensland job still helping me out. They've also got outstanding, flexible working practices that are making it so much easier to deal with my acquired brain injury. Dream no more. The chalk sketch is clear. Being master of my fate, being captain of my soul. has led me to another amazing place. Thank you, Andrew. The acquired brain injury also sadly prevents me from being the father I want to be for my boy, and the husband I needed to be for my wife. Back in my youth, my father had taught me how to build cool shit around the backyard, like dog kennels, patios, garden beds. This is my very first memory in life. So building cool shit with my dad, rocks for the garden edging at home. Even better, my first car, the mighty V8 HQ Holden Kings, with his towing trailer. I proudly carried on this family tradition, pre-cancer, building a cubby house for my boy, chin coop, stairs down in the backyard, a lovely little fountain in the corner there. I deeply desire to pass this proud family tradition on to my boy by teaching him how to build cool shit around the backyard. But I just can't do it anymore. The acquired brain injury means that any kind of head movement just knocks me out. So getting down low and lining things up and lifting heavy things, the noise from the drills, the saws, the hammers just knocks me out. Just going for a drive in the car does a tiny little head movements. Flying in an aeroplane is debilitating. Watching my wife and son play sport involves climbing over rough embankments that destroy my airplane feet. Going to a cafe or restaurant or bar just knocks me out because of the noise. This fundamentally changed our relationship, and it's unfortunately not working anymore. I'm in the process of separating. I'm wincing here, but I'm not crying aloud. I respect that I am a changed man, that I'm unable to provide the happiness she requires, and I really want her to be happy again because of everything she's done for me. She stormed through my loneliness and rescued me from a life of solitude. After never even being able to establish a long-term relationship, having a wedding was such an amazing experience. She gave me 10 years of marriage. Yes, it's time for long service leave. She helped me conquer cancer. Without her and her family, I may not have survived, let alone thrived. Most importantly, she's given me the most amazing little boy, Moby McCormack. He is the last McCormack in my grandparents' family line. He wears it with pride, and he'll take many amazing places, thanks to the skills they passed down to him. In fact, here we are down at my grandparents' old farm in Kimberley, Tasmania, with my brother Ashley and his daughter Shani. We were still good friends with the people who bought the farm off my grandparents many decades ago. We were driving past one day. He was on the side of the road, so we stopped to say good day. He's invited to sit, taken Moby and Shani for a tour of the farm on his ATV while he had a coffee with his wife. How cool is that? Now, Willie managed Henley thanks the gods for his unconquerable soul. I thank my parents, and my grandparents, and my great-grandparents, my great-great-great-grandparents, because we are all products of our environment. Skills and capabilities are passed down through the generation, which is why I'm writing a book about my great-great-great-great-grandfather, James McGee, who was a convict transported to Tasmania in 1830. But he didn't wince or cry aloud at being exiled half around the world as a convict. He focused on resuming a happy life. He was assigned to a free settler, John Presnell, who ran the halfway house pub in Antlepons, Tasmania. He married John's daughter Eleanor. He lived happily ever after. So I'm writing the book to explore where he learnt the skills to be master of his fate, to be captain of his soul. Because he passed those skills down to me, and they're helping me conquer cancer. In fact, I was walking in his shoes right at the beginning of my cancer journey. I travelled to Edinburgh, Scotland, to help organise the Global Space Traffic Management Conference. After the conference, we flew out of an airport on the other side of the country while touring through the castles, wineries, distilleries. Amazing. I was sick at the time, but I was in denial I even had cancer. But walking in his shoes gave me the courage to face and conquer my cancer. Got home from that trip, finally admitted to my wife, I'm sick, it's time to fight. Thank you, James. Now, I also used to work with a lovely lady who was the software design lead for our company, and also an award-winning singer, the amazing Kate Burke of the New Crazies. Check her out, she's amazing. She has inspired me to expand my writing experience even further by writing a theme song for my book. Thank you, Kate. We're two convicts on a ship this afternoon. You're shackled to me. One thing we've left to do. Discover us, creating your new colony. 1 mile or inch of Your cliffs like porcelain, fertile plains and soaring mountains. You want freedom? We'll build it. A new colony of mateship. Take all those big chains and break them. This is bound to be a while. Tasmania is a wonderland. Tasmania is a wonder, we'll build it proudly. Tasmania is a wonderland. Oh, freedom is mine, all mine, all mine. Feels so good, but it hurts sometimes. Tasmania is a wonderland. Don't worry, I got the chalk out. I'm staying in Canberra, close to my boy. I have a fully approved National Disability Insurance Scheme plan in place to give me the supports that I need to live independently. I'm working with Synapse to establish an in-person brain injury support group in Canberra, because believe it or not, there currently isn't one. My ex-wife's father's purchased a unit that he's renting back to me, well below market rate. How nice is that? Most importantly, I've started treatment at the Brain Training Centre, who are helping me find new neural pathways around the damage. And it's working. Fully memorised this speech. I never could have done that before. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's going to be a bright, sunshiny life. Oh, I can think clearly now. I'm training my brain. I can see all the amazing opportunity. Gone are the cloudy brain days that held me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny light. I think I can make it, now the pain is gone. All of my bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny light. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny light. So please, remember, next time you get bludgeoned by chance, don't wince or cry. Be master of your fate, be captain of your soul. It will take you many amazing places.